שלום خزيان مقبل أنا رومينا جوناس بشانتيتون الأطرا تي في ودي بتبقى بالدكتور إليزابيث Mickaily-Huber قد إلى President Assyrian National Council of Stanislaus. Dr. Huber بتهمزمة بعض Assyrian ID card. ID card إحنا رابع سنيقوي بخ ID card قديا unified David. ID card تاني قد أخنا إيبخ أطراي كت آوودا قد كارد عويلة خنا لازم للا تانا أنا إيبن كالدنايا سوريايا سوريويو آتورايا آشورايا إلى خا كارد قد تانا أنا إيبن آتورايا I am Assyrian. أكارد الرابع لازم لقوم تدين قديان unified David ميدالب خيدخ بخشمه عدي از اختبقاخن بميوبرتا Dr. Elizabeth Mickaily-Huber.
Romina, I just wanted to thank you for having me on Atra TV and for hosting my presentation on the Assyrian ID. So today I'm going to be talking about a project that I've been working on for over a year now, and it is called the Assyrian ID Project. And it is a project that is very dear to me. I feel that it is a very important project, and I'd like to share it with you here today with the help of Romina Jonas, my friend. And also I'm coming here today as the president of the Assyrian National Council of Stanislaus. So I'm going to start off by a quick anecdote to show what the problem is and why this project is so important. So a couple of years ago, my son met an Assyrian girl in Iraq who he wanted to marry. They married in the church there, and then he had to begin the paperwork process to bring her into the United States. And during that time, he was living in Iraq for about a period of 1 year, and he realized that he didn't have anything to prove or to show that he belonged there. In other words, he was there within a U.S. passport, and he had no document or any way to prove that this was actually his homeland, that he belonged there. And I myself was born in the U.S. My two sons were also born in the U.S. So we no longer have any passports that link us to any of the countries in the homeland. And so the issue became where my two sons began saying to me, but, wouldn't it be great if there were a way that we could prove through some form of documentation that we were actually Assyrian, and not just say it, but to actually prove it. And so that was the starting point for this discussion. And today, I hope that through this presentation, I will be able to convince you of the need and the importance of having a national ID for the future of our Assyrian people moving forward, regardless of where they are in the world. So I want to start out with this pie chart that shows that most Assyrians now live outside our native lands. So if you look at the light blue colored part of the pie, which is roughly, I guess, 35-40% of the pie, maybe less, that's the part that's the Middle East. And all these other colors are representing other places in the world where Assyrians live. And so what it means is that the majority of Assyrians now, in current times, live outside of the Middle East. And so the question becomes, well, how can we maintain our identity long-term when the majority of us are now no longer living in the Middle East? There's another problem that comes to mind with this pie chart, And that is that the source of the information that I use to actually create the pie chart is Wikipedia. And what I noticed when I looked through the sources is that some of these were governmental sources, some were non governmental sources, some were from books, some were from private entities. So basically, there's a whole mishmash of demographic information on Assyrians, but there is no one single verifiable source. There are many sources, but not one that we know, is it verifiable? How realistic is it? And so on and so forth. Don't let's forget also that sometimes countries will ramp up or ramp down populations depending on what their personal interests are with regards to these populations. So through this Assyrian ID project, one of the long term goals is to be able to have proper and correct demographic information on Assyrians, for Assyrians, by Assyrians, that we ourselves monitor our demographic information. So, what we know is that Assyrians in the diaspora are increasing while our homeland is emptying of our native population. And I think that we can all understand what the reasons behind this are. Obviously, there's more opportunity outside the Middle East. There's certainly more security outside the Middle East, with the Middle East being kind of a hotbed for all kinds of issues, political, economic, and so forth. There's also a better future for the children of most Assyrians. So I don't think any of us can really blame our Assyrian brothers and sisters for moving out of the homeland under these circumstances. Also, according to the Underrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, which is basically a subset of the UN, the Assyrian population in Iraq has decreased from 1.5 million to roughly 300,000 since 2013. But in fact, more recently, when I've been speaking to people and also looking things up, these numbers have gone down to about 250,000. So our numbers are drastically decreasing in the homeland of Iraq. So let's come down then to the nitty gritty of why is national identification necessary? So again, one of the most important things that I want to specify here is that we need to have accurate and verifiable demographic information. We want to, down the line, maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, start to have legal and political recognition in our host countries. Well, how do we do that? We do that by showing that we are a large population, that we are a population worth they're taking their time to actually pay attention to. In other words, what it boils down to, excuse me, is that we're a large voting bloc, larger than certain ones, especially in places like Turlock in Chicago, in Australia, and so on and so forth. So when we show in a provable, verifiable way that our numbers are large in certain areas, then that can lead to more recognition and more value, in a sense, in the host countries. Another thing that might be interesting is that through this kind of networking, we can have economic, business, and employment opportunities, again, for Assyrians by Assyrians, to create a network in that sense. And then finally, and just as important, is our cultural preservation and our global unification. So we want not only to survive, but to thrive, and also to show ourselves as a united front. And that's something we'll come back to in a moment. So let's talk a little bit about how would this national ID card unify Assyrians? Well, firstly, it would be a symbol of shared recognition beyond the borders of countries, beyond churches that we might be affiliated with, beyond politics. And it goes into cultural representation without erasure. What do I mean by that? It means that no single group of Assyrians will be forgotten, regardless of how we choose to identify ourselves. We all need to come together. And we'll talk about that again in a moment, because this point of unity, not uniformity, this point is really, really important for our future. The ID card also will provide a common framework of belonging to show that, yes, we belong to this group of people that call themselves Assyrians, Chaldeans, Syriacs, what have you, but we're all one people. And then finally, down the line, in the future, God willing, legal standing as a bona fide Assyrian. So this is something that we are working toward through the Assyrian ID project. So this slide is difficult, but I think that we need to come to terms with it. We have known centuries of division because of things like how we refer to ourselves, whether we refer to ourselves as Assyrian, whether we refer to ourselves as Chaldean, as Syriac, or Aramean. But the reality is that we are all one people with a common background. We are all one group hailing from ancient Mesopotamia. And so, regardless of how we want to identify ourselves by name, it is time that we all unify, because if we don't, we will lose our identity. And it doesn't matter which of these we wish to call ourselves. Time will make it such that our numbers will not be large enough, and we will lose that identity that we hold on to so strongly. So this is a moment in time where it is imperative that we unify. It's no longer a matter of what we want, it's a matter of what we must do for the future of our identity, for the future of our heritage that we hold on to so dearly. So, one of the issues that comes to mind now with this Assyrian ID is, well, how does one prove their Assyrian identity? Well, there's lots of ways to prove the Assyrian identity. One would be through baptismal certificates, through bona fide churches, recognized churches, whether that's the Assyrian Church of the East, the Ancient Church, the Chaldean Church, the Syriac Church, the Assyrian Presbyterian Church, whatever church that might be, as long as it's bona fide, recognized, and known to be affiliated with Assyrians, then that would be one way of proving Assyrian identity. Church affiliation or membership would be another way to prove it. Affiliation with officially recognized organizations or societies, Assyrian Foundation, Assyrian National Council, the Civic Club, whatever group or organization that is official and bona fide as an Assyrian, Chaldean, or Syriac organization that is provably related in some way, then that would be another way to prove your Assyrian identity. For people where it's harder, maybe they haven't had much contact with Assyrians for whatever reason, there might be ways of proving identity through ancestral or family documentation or other supporting evidence, and that would be on a case-by-case basis. But these are some of the ways that we would use to verify identity as a bona fide Assyrian. And then what comes to mind also is that now, sadly and unfortunately, many of our people no longer speak our native tongue. So we do not want to use that against them. Of course, we all wish that our children speak our native tongue. So this is not something that I'm saying with in any way with pride or with, a wishing that we lose our native language. No, not at all. But what I'm saying is that we shouldn't use it as the like an only mechanism for identifying if someone is Assyrian or not. And then to top it all off, we do have some people in Kurdish territories who speak very good Assyrian, who could, manifest themselves as Assyrian and pass themselves off as Assyrian, and no one would know otherwise, right? So, it's going to be a variety of things that we can use to identify ourselves as Assyrians. So the Assyrian national identification is currently available. For people who are interested or who want to learn more, they can go to AssyrianID.com or AssyrianID.org. Both of those are linked together. And the card looks something like this. So on one side, it is written in English. On one side, it is written in our Assyrian language. So on the top, it says Assyrian National Identification, Hayayuta Umtaneta Altureta. Each individual will have their very own ID number that will act like a social security number. So that number becomes your individual identification number. Your name, your family name, your first name, your middle name, your date of birth, country of birth, and how you choose to identify yourself. So your autonym will be stated on the card. And so in this way, regardless of the fact of what you choose to call yourself, your name, your identity, as long as you are willing to accept or acknowledge that you belong to this group of people, which overall identifies in some way with the Assyrian peoplehood, then you are part of the club, so to speak. Right? So we don't want to turn people away. No, we want to unify, and we need to unify, Romina. That's the big key clincher here. We cannot move into the future with division. We will not survive the test of time with division. That's something that I insist on. So anyone who believes that will get nowhere, will just simply, lose themselves into the annals of history. That's the reality. And it's sad, but it's true. So I know that some people are concerned about data security, privacy, and all these issues. They should know that we are using neutral and vetted third-party secure data storage. We comply with industry standards for, excuse me, data protection. And the cards are actually have features on them that are secure and non-reproducible. So we are relying on established providers that already secure sensitive data worldwide. But I want to make another point that's really important. The information that people will be providing to us is information that I could easily go and look up Romina Jonas and find out all kinds of stuff about you online.
And more.
Okay. And that's what's really important for people to understand. We are not asking for information that is that personal or that relevant to other people. For example, one of the questions we ask in the questionnaire on the online is, do you speak Assyrian? Do you read and write Assyrian? I mean, who's going to be interested in that other than Assyrians, right? So So the demographic information that you would be providing is really quite general, and it's not that private or personal that you have to worry about data security. And most of this stuff, like I said, is stuff that I could literally go online, look around for about half an hour and find out all kinds of information if that was something that I was wanting to do as some sort of nefarious person, right? So people do not have to be concerned about the type of information that we're getting. It's really only of interest to us as Assyrians, as a group, as a national group. That's it. So, considerations and challenges. We want to keep the card cost friendly. So, right now, the card costs $25 if you are living in the United States, $35 if you are living outside the United States. The card is a lifetime purchase. So, unless there's like some incredible thing that happens down the line, God willing, we end up with a country again, right? Then this might change. But for now, as it stands right now, this is a one-time purchase. You will have your card that becomes your Assyrian identification card. There's also an option on the website to donate if you wish to help Assyrians in the homeland to obtain a card, because you do have to get the card with a credit card. So a lot of Assyrians in the homeland don't have credit cards. So for people who would like to donate, they have that option. We are requesting and wanting volunteer collaboration from our churches and organizations. So far, we have not had any problems. So, for example, if someone has written down that they belong to the church of, I don't know, Shummun somewhere in the world, then I've called Gasha Shummun and I've said, this person says they're in your church and that they are Assyrian. Can you verify that information? And hence I was able to do that. So far I have not run into any roadblocks. Everybody has been very helpful and very collaborative. We also are looking to get all Assyrians on board, regardless of denomination. So we don't care what your church affiliation is, as long as it's some sort of bona fide, known, recognized church, not something that we have never heard of before, then everyone who is Assyrian is welcome. With regards to adoption of non-ethnically Assyrian children into Assyrian families, I think that we can all acknowledge that if that child has been brought up as an Assyrian, then that child, even if they're not Assyrian ethnically, we should recognize them as being part of our Assyrian family. And then finally, and this is something that I don't want to really go into or deal with too much right now, because I'm still interested right now in focusing on our mainstream Assyrian populations. There are some claims of Assyrian heritage by external groups, and that we'll deal with when the time comes, because right now I'm focused on our average everyday Assyrians who can prove their Assyrian identity in the ways that I've discussed. So just as a little bit of background, because you might be wondering, okay, this is great. I like this idea, but who the heck is the Assyrian National Council of Stanislaus? So we are a bona fide 501c3 nonprofit community organization. We're based in Stanislaus County. We serve Assyrian American community of the Central Valley. So we have over 60,000 Assyrians in Turlock, Modesto, Ceres, and surrounding areas. This is stated by our local senator who gave that information. We are an umbrella organization that represents nearly all Assyrian churches, cultural entities, and political organizations in our region. And we actively engage in cultural preservation in a variety of ways and historical recognition. Two of the main ways are Assyrian New Year celebrations and Shawwat Tabbach, August 7th, Martyrs' Day commemorations every year. But there's other events too that we plan on an ongoing basis and on an as-needed basis that bring our community together. So we work with all these organizations that are under our umbrella to try and help our Assyrian community, both locally and abroad. So once again, the card is available if you're interested at AssyrianID.org or AssyrianID.com. This is a really important project to bring our name into the future, to not have it lost. So I hope that through this presentation that I have been able to convince you of the importance of the project. And thank you, Romina, for listening. And I am open to questions.
Okay, actually, let me make one comment before I get into the question. Just to, I'm totally for this ID card. I have gotten mine. I will show it to you later on. And it was really easy to get. And you're right, you don't ask any specific questions that I may not want to share. And we share everything. We share our DNA with Ancestry.com. We don't even know who they are. We tell them about their grandparents or great grandparents, about everybody. And here is we have an Assyrian source, an Assyrian organization that is asking for basic information. Some people may be afraid, which I don't see why. Why would we share with strangers, but we would not share with our own?
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
and
That's a very
also
good point.
yeah, and also I was speaking to this friend of mine in Erbil. In fact, I spoke to him a couple of days ago, and he said he was going through the checkpoint, and the guy said to him, "Are you Chaldean?" And then goes, "No, I'm Assyrian. Why are you asking me if I'm Chaldean?" He goes, "Calm down. I just had another guy go by, and I said, 'Are you Assyrian?' The guy got pissed off and goes, 'No, I'm Chaldean. Why are you telling me that I'm an Assyrian?'" And then the guy at the checkpoint says, "Would you guys go figure it out? Come up with one name. Tell us what to call you, and that's what we will call you."
Right.
So, so
Yeah,
that's
so
all
this is
about.
an issue. It's an ongoing issue. And obviously, it's not the card in and of itself that's going to solve the problem, because that's going to also take a lot of doing for people to undo historical issues, right? So we have to move beyond that, because we're not going to be able to survive if we hold on to these kinds of feudal and tribal mentalities that, maybe had purpose and meaning in the past, but they no longer are serving the same purpose and meaning. So we need to let go of these things and move into this time that is crucial for us to unify if we want to survive in the future.
Now tell me about those three flags on the bottom of the card.
Sure. Okay, so let's discuss this, because I have had some pushback. Why on earth would you acknowledge these flags?
Mhm.
Well, let's talk about this, Romina. You and I both live in the state of California, correct?
Correct.
And the state of California is inside the United States. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we both have one flag for the state of California that has a bear on it.
Hmm.
That bear represents the state of California. Yet, we also have a flag that represents us overall, which is the flag of the United States, right?
Correct.
So, by the same token, if we look at it from this perspective as Assyrians, we have subgroups, states, if you will, of Assyrians. We have a subgroup that identify as Assyrian. We have a subgroup that identifies as Chaldean. We have a
Hmm.
subgroup that may identify as either Suryoyo or Aramean. All
Yes.
right. Are these people, do they themselves see themselves or view themselves as part of the Assyrian family? Some of them do. And those are the people that will come forward and want to get this card. And some of them don't. They say, no, we have nothing to do. Well, we can't hold a gun to people's heads and say, no, you have to be, you have to acknowledge this. But what we can do is we can invite them and urge them and also inform them, because there's a certain amount of education going on. Where, for example, I myself went to Al-Qush in the homeland, and Al-Qush is predominantly a Chaldean area, right? But
Yes.
they all view themselves, because they know that that Rabban Hurmuz monastery was part of the Assyrian Church of the East through the history. So
Right.
they know, they recognize that somewhere in their history, they were directly related with the Assyrian Church of the East.
Mhm.
Okay. And now, and through time and through various, things that happened in our history and political system and so on and so forth, they began to identify themselves more as Chaldeans, but it doesn't, take away from the fact that their ethnic origins are Assyrian.
Yeah, correct. So how are we going to expand that throughout the country? I know right now in the United States, you're handling it and you're handling it overall. I mean, you're in charge of the program. And
Right.
then how are we going to handle it in, say, France and Australia and Iraq? How is that going to work?
So, what I'm looking to do is find people, find contacts that are that really know the communities in these different places. For example, yesterday I just had a meeting similar to this one that we're having here, with Anthony Yalap, who is in the French-speaking community. What they call in France Assyro-Chaldéen. That's how they refer to themselves, Assyro-Chaldéen. And so I spoke to him about this project. He very much liked it and was willing to start promoting it into the French speaking Assyrian community and to get people on board with this idea.
Mhm.
And so what I'm doing is basically depending on my contacts, people that I know who are, really know their areas, know people within the Assyrian community of different places. I'm also going to do the same thing in Sweden and maybe through your help, Romina, in Australia, and just slowly start getting people more and more aware of this project and really why it's so important. I don't want people, Romina, to be hung up on these three little flags. These three little flags are simply saying, you're one of us. Come on, join us. Let's all get together. And don't get hung up on this idea. We want to be inclusive, but it's not just that we want it. We need it. It
Mhm.
is a imperative.
Mhm.
In our current time, historically, it's an imperative. So we've got to move beyond that.
Actually, what I was thinking of doing is Assyrians for Education can actually, I know there are lots of Assyrians in Armenia
Hmm.
and who would be more than happy to participate, but they probably won't have the funding. So I am proposing that Assyrians for Education will pay for their funding, for their cards, if they are interested in obtaining one. So I will publicize that and
Thank
then
you.
come up with some grants to get them involved and help them fill out the application. Now the application it's all in English, correct?
Well, from what because we did a little bit of testing about the website, and you're welcome to maybe next time you're in Armenia to try this out yourself. From what we are able to gather, when a person logs into the website, from a different country, the website on they can put a translate mode on, or I think it's maybe automatic and it translates right away. So that would be something would be really interesting to try. And next time you're in Armenia, to give that a shot, sit down with somebody and give it a try, and then let me know if that indeed works.
Well, I'm
Because
going to try
that's
it out today. I'll tell my
oh,
friends there to
okay,
check it
yeah,
out and let me know.
that
Yeah.
would be great. That would be
Yeah,
great. Yeah,
I'm totally for this. This is totally needed. And I think all the Assyrians should participate. And I don't see any reason why, because that gives us unity. We've been looking for something like this for forever. So this is a good way of uniting us all over the world. And I'm 100% for it. And Liz, can I ask you some more questions?
sure. I think we have about 5 minutes remaining in our Zoom call. So
Okay, so
yeah.
let me go through Okay, so what if someone does not belong to any churches and does not belong to any organizations? How
So
would they?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So for example, yesterday when I was talking to Anthony Yallap in France, he said that there were a couple of people that he came across recently. One of them was a professor in Strasbourg in France. Another one was a young woman who's a photographer
Mhm.
who recently, through, going through their papers and documents of their grandparents or whatnot, came to the realization that they're Assyrian. So I told him that, for example, in these sorts of cases that are a little bit less clear, that I would use his judgment, for example, to look at those papers, to look at those documents. Since he's living in France, he's familiar with the system. He knows, like, these people, he's seen them face to face and has understood their family history, that they could write him down as a reference. And then I would contact him, I would ask him some information, and then I would go based on that judgment. So for people that are in this, unique kind of situation, and there might be more than we know, Romina, this is
Yeah.
what I'm hoping we will find out, because right now, they say that we are 3.5 million. I am pretty convinced inside me that we are a lot larger
Yeah.
than we think we are.
Yeah.
And that it's a matter of tapping into finding where all the Assyrians are, and recognize them as members of the family,
Yeah.
members of the Assyrian family.
Yeah, it's true. Now, so in order for other organizations throughout the world, I mean, this is a global effort to support you. So you're not single-handedly handling all this. This is too much. So
Mhm.
would you accept people or organization to volunteer to help you out on this?
Absolutely, yeah. For example, let's suppose that there's an organization in Iraq, because that's where it's difficult, or places like Iran, which unfortunately, right now, as we know, Iran is in a lot of upheaval. But God willing, through one way or another, that will come to a certain calm. We hope and we pray that for everyone there. But anyway, so in countries where it's particularly difficult to be able to do this kind of stuff, then definitely it would be wonderful if there's organizations like your Assyrians for Education in Armenia, that would be able to help us to move this project forward, either through financially or just to do the manpower, helping people sign up and do things. Maybe they're not that familiar with computers and so on and so forth. So definitely we are open and would love to have people collaborate with us.
Mhm. And you said that those people who cannot financially afford it, say when I signed up, it was $25 and I donated another, I don't remember how much it was, $10, $20
Hmm.
towards someone who may not have the money to apply.
Right.
Now, say, okay, say I don't have the money, I apply, and how do I pay that? How do you apply that money to my account?
Right. That's a really good point, Romina. So, what we'd like to do is for people that are in that position who don't have a credit card, that can't afford to pay it or what have you, to contact, there's on the website, AssyrianID.org. When you go there, there's a contact us section. So, we ask that you contact us first. Let us know that you're in this position, and then we will help you work through it. We might give you a special code or work through it so that you can get your card without having to go through. So we can use donated funds to help you get your card.
Okay, so if I'm going to do this in Armenia, there will be lots of people. Then would you give me one code or would you give me several codes? Like, can I just have one code for, let's say, Armenia? And
Right. So what we could do is figure out a way, if for example there's funds that you're willing to donate, we can put them onto, say, one of those Visa cards that's usable as externally, and then just charge using that one Visa card. You know, the
right,
ones that I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah, prepaid.
I'm not sure if those are usable worldwide, but I think that if you're using them on this website, Stripe should acknowledge and accept those cards. So that would be a way of working around it. And that would be a great way for people to donate as well through this kind of thing. So for example, if you decide that you want to donate in that way, then we can work through that.
So, Liz, I would like to thank you for my card, which is, I'm holding it upside down. And here's my card in English and then in Assyrian. And I'm very proud of it. And every
Thank you.
Assyrian should have one of these.
Thank you. Thank you,
So,
Romina.
Liz,
And
let
by
me
the way,
ask you
I
this.
wanted I wanted to mention something, Romina, because I'm looking at your photo there. When people do the application, please have a digital photo of yourself handy, but one where you're dressed, like you would for a passport photo, and we want to have a full facial, that you're recognizable. We don't want you in Jilit Khumala with Pariguri Shah because we want it to be an official card. So we really want this to be something that will be taken seriously. And so therefore, we want these pictures, a photo that goes onto your card should be like a passport photo. Now, it can be done yourself. You can take the photo yourself, but try and do it in an environment where you have, a white background, with, not too much fluff around you so that it doesn't detract from the image of your face as representing the individual who's applying for the card.
Mhm. And also, you said there are some security codes on the card. Something about,
Yeah, actually, if you look, there's a film on the card. That's if you, it's a
yeah, I see it. Yeah,
holographic
there's a film
film.
on the card.
Yeah, that's a holographic film. Those are not reproducible. I'm not going to say aloud what the image is in that holograph, but you can see for yourself that there's a holographic image, and that's a special coating that we've put on it to make the card significantly more difficult to reproduce.
Mhm. And what about the security issue? How is who has the data? Which I understand you're managing it at this point. How many people are working on it? And tell me more about the security.
Right. So it's a third party platform. They are a secure third party platform that are used by many, many companies, organizations, banks, and so on. So it's as bona fide as it can be. And we are right now, we're only three individuals that have direct access to the data. We're all working closely together. This is a project that we all esteem as important. So we understand the value and the importance of the data. This being said, again, I emphasize that there's really nothing that you're going to say in the application that is that personal that you would be afraid that someone could, go in and get the data. It's really of major interest to us as Assyrians, as a group, as a people, not that interesting to other people. How well do you speak Assyrian? I think that's only of interest to us. Um, so
And
anyway,
as
so
I
I
said,
just
it's like, go ahead. I'm
no, no,
sorry.
I was just going to say that, people don't need to be afraid because it's not that invasive a questionnaire. On the other hand, it takes about 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to fill out the application. So when you're going to sit down to do the application, make sure you have your digital photo handy, that you pretty much know your background, like where your mom and dad were born, where your grandparents on each side were born, if that's information you're able to get, because we're just trying to track, like, where Assyrians are coming from which areas. And not necessarily your tribe per se, but trying to understand more of this historical migration of how Assyrians moved around and from where they came.
Mhm. So are you going to have this presentation also in Assyrian?
Yeah, so hopefully, if you're willing to help me with that, we will have the
Definitely am.
presentation in Assyrian. Yeah, for sure. So, it would take a little bit of time again, but I would be happy to give the presentation in Assyrian.
That would be so. You have it in French. Now we have it in English, and we'll do it
Mhm.
in Assyrian. And I guess others can help us out doing probably giving the presentation. Maybe some other people can do it in German or different languages that we're not, you and I don't speak. Or do you
Yeah.
speak German?
No, not really. But I think that most of the people in the Germanic countries, so in Sweden and Germany and Denmark, and because we do have Assyrian populations in all those places, but I'm pretty sure that in those countries they have a fairly good mastery of the English
Yeah.
language. So I don't foresee that as being an issue. But if it is, for whatever reason, then we'll work around it, and we can take contact with people locally who can help us also.
And also, you don't have to be 100% Assyrian. You could be, as long as
True.
you identify yourself as Assyrian.
Right. And that you can somehow show that that is true. It's not just, oh, identify as a hot dog, that you actually are able in some way to show or prove that that is true. I'm sorry, I had to throw a little joke out there. So if you're able to show that, then it's perfectly
I
fine.
am not a hawker. That was funny, Lou. Professor with a great sense of humor.
Actually, I am curious about the dress that is behind you, and it's a very pretty dress. So, can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yes, actually, let me see. This dress was made in Lola's sewing school in Armenia. As you know, we have a sewing school there, and our student made this dress, and we have about 40 of them.
Are there other colors, or is it just in red?
No, it's all one color. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to spend lots of money. This is the first time we're doing this. The quality is really good. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to ship things from Armenia to United States. It's really expensive. So this is the
Hmm.
first time we're trying it out, and if it works out, then we'll do more. We could do them different colors, but let's see if we
Beautiful.
can sell
And
them all.
is that a velvet fabric?
Yeah, it's velvet.
Yes,
It's a
really nice.
very nice, thick, really good quality. So we picked really good quality fabric just because I've seen other really thin fabrics,
Hmm.
and I think this gives it more class. It fits you really well.
Yeah, right. Well, beautiful, beautiful dress, and I wish you good luck on that project for you as well.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. Thank you so much for all your efforts. I know it takes lots of time. It takes lots of motivation. You have to self-motivate. You have to, because there will be people who are going to talk against it, and
That's
you
true.
have to just push forward and move forward. It's a great idea. I am behind you personally, 100%, and
Thank
whatever I
you.
can do to help out, you can count on me. So we really appreciate everything you're doing for our people, for our UMTA, and God bless you. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for
I
being.
appreciate it, Romina. And and hopefully we will do this again soon in Assyrian as well.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. God bless you, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye.